What's happening? Welcome in the Matt Bernier Show. My name is Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. This is a little bit of a joint preview and review edition. Going to go back in the stakes montage, take a look at all those stakes races from this past weekend, Memorial Day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Then I'll come back with some quick hits, give you some brief thoughts. It won't be the full in-depth review that I normally do with the review pod, but just based on the way that the schedule fell this week, we weren't able to record that. Now, though, we will also transition that into a bit of the preview, taking a look at the new shooter contender profiles for the Belmont Stakes. Looks like it's going to be a relatively small field. There are some fresh faces, though, some intriguing alternatives should you want to go against the likes of War of Will or Tacitus coming up in the Belmont next Saturday afternoon. So we'll throw those out there at the very end of this pod, but we'll kick things off with the review edition. Now, as far as next week's schedule is concerned, just to get things out there, we will have the standard review edition. That'll be coming out on Monday. Go back and take a look at some of the stakes action from this weekend. But it doesn't look like it's a very in-depth or a very deep stakes weekend anyway, so I don't think there'll be anything too crazy. But next Thursday will be the big preview leading into the Belmont Stakes. I'm sure there'll be at least one other race that I'll take a look at using Formulator, showing you some notes, things of that nature. So those are the things to be keeping an eye out for leading into next week, leading into the Belmont Stakes, the third jewel in the American Triple Crown. But as far as this is concerned, a little bit of a combination pod. However you listen to this, YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com, or Spotify. Thank you for doing so. Please rate, review, and subscribe. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, leave them beneath the video player on YouTube or directly over to me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. A little bit of an odd situation, but here we go. Let's throw it into a stakes montage. It's going to be a rather lengthy one because, again, you got 3 days worth of races. We'll rip through all those. Then I'll come back, give you some quick thoughts, some quick hits on each one of those, and then we'll transition into those Belmont contender profiles. So here we go. Let's get things started with the stakes montage.
With Force the Pass, the others got to do better. Irish Straight and Almanar into the stretch. These two a length and a half in front. Force the Pass. Synchrony catches the eye just in behind as Almanar hits the front. Synchrony going to try to run him down in the final 16th. It's Almanar past the 16th pole. On the outside, Synchrony. Almanar digs deep. Synchrony on the outside, but Almanar has his measure, and Almanar going to go on to win the Monmouth.
Anthem in the white is behind horses. Top of the stretch, and Sistron spurts away. He has a 3-length lead over Nero. Airstrike running a good race on the outside, then American Anthem. A 16th to go. Sistron trying to finish the job. Airstrike bearing down. It's Sistron or Airstrike. Airstrike getting to Sistron, and Airstrike gets him in the final. They're at the top of the stretch. At the rail, Morse Code, Prime Attraction, looking for racing room, trying to sneak through a narrow opening. Ashley Loves Sugar on the outside, United. Marquis Water, it's a driving finish. Morse Code, Prime Attraction, Ashley Loves Sugar. Here's Marquis Water erupting, and Marquis Water mows them all down with plenty.
Poking the fires. Here's Just Call, Kenny and Bal Harbor. Diamond King going to have to hold off a bevy of challengers. Bal Harbor's running a huge one on the outside. Slipping through down toward the inside is Sunny Ridge. Final furlong now. Diamond King, Sunny Ridge. The Service Brothers 1-2. Sunny Ridge gets through. Diamond King back to second. Sunny Ridge and Jose Lescano to win the Salvatore Mile. Diamond King was second, third. Bal
chasing him from second. Kentuck on the fence third. There's an 1/8 of a mile to go. What's on the agenda? Running a big race, but here's Eddie Haskell right up alongside, and Eddie Haskell is right to him, puts his head in front, and Eddie Haskell and Kent DeSormo will steam home in the Daytona Stakes. They win it by 2 comfortable lengths.
Wire goes 4 wide down the outside and is charging after all of them. Global Access got the jump, got away by a length and a half. It's Skywire, the immediate challenger, and Global Access trying to hang on. Skywire ducking about, Global Access holding, and Global Access in the Marine Stakes, a nice win by a length to Skywire.
Summertime Oaks sneaking out on the inside, and My Majestic Rose are head and head coming to the 8th pole. Colonial Creed is 5 back in third. They're coming toward the 16th. My Majestic Rose sneaking out, fighting on willingly, sneaking out, or My Majestic Rose in an absolute thriller. My Majestic Rose wearing her down. My Majestic Rose wins the Summertime.
Presence turns in front. Red Cabernet and Starship Jubilee, and Starship Jubilee rockets to the front. Running on, Secret Message behind Get Explicit. Starship Jubilee got the break on them. Starship Jubilee a furlong to run, 3 in front. Secret Message coming on well. Secret Message is making a headlong stride. Secret Message is flying on the outside. Starship Jubilee trying to hang on, but no. Secret Message too good. Wins the Nassau.
Blinkers, River Boyne down at the rail. Catapult swings into action. Delta Prince has too much to do. There's an 1/8 of a mile to go. Bolo keeps on going. River Boyne on the inside. Catapult far outside. Bowie 0. But Bolo has something left for the final 16th. And it's going to be Bolo coast to coast in the Shoemaker Mile. Tight photo face to run as the field turns for home. Ahimsa still there by a 1.5 lengths. Vasilika on the far outside. Rimska is coming one from the rail. Streak of luck. Meal ticket. A 16th to go. Ahimsa's trying to pull off an upset. Here comes Rimska and Vasilika on the outside. Vasilika, this is her house. Vasilika wins the game lead. Gift Box will have to dig deep to keep off Vino Rosso, who comes to the 8th pole with the lead by a neck. Gift Box is back to second. Then comes Higher Power in third. They're coming to the 16th pole, and Vino Rosso edging away from Gift Box. He's coming into his own, and Vino Rosso at age 4 goes on to win the Gold Cup at Santa Anita.
Recta final de Golden Gate Field, la All American State está en punta. Gabos Macondo ataca por fuera Christian Fire contra el puntero. Christian Fire está desplazando y se viene a liquidar la octava competencia desde el fondo. Mejora Builder por la parte externa, pero muy tarde les va a ganar Christian Fire con William Antoyorgi. El de Jerry Hollanderfer ganó el 3 Christian Fire. Segundo Builder.
All right, let's rip through the quick hits here. Going back, taking a look at the stakes montage. We'll go right in order. The Monmouth, I think Almanar is just, he's an entirely different horse on firm ground when he gets it. I just think he can run basically with anyone that we have here in the United States on grass. I tweeted it afterward. It seemed pretty clear, and there were a number of folks on Twitter that mentioned it, that Almanar floated out into the path of synchrony, or at least force him out wider. Just hang the inquiry sign. How hard is it to do that? I'm not just talking to the stewards in New Jersey. Just hang the sign. How difficult is it to do that? Don't wait for the jockey to be the one to make you go and take a look. I don't care if it's 10 seconds. Hang the inquiry sign. Look at it. Again, I don't care if it's 5-10 seconds. Just show that you're at least paying attention. You dismiss it, but just look at it. Because you all look terrible when the jockey is the one that has to be the one to initiate some sort of review. It looks awful. Just look at it. I don't know. It's almost like you're dealing with just people that are so stubborn, or they're just incompetent. It's one of the two. Hang the inquiry sign. It's not that hard. It's really not. The Triple Bend out at Santa Anita. Thought it was a nice rallying effort from Airstrike. A really big effort from Sistron, because he was the only part of the pace that was sticking around late at the end. I don't know if maybe Airstrike benefited from the situation, because they did go an honest clip early on, but he did come with that nice big move on the far outside. Sistron dug in gamely. Initially thought maybe Mike Smith could have been a little bit more aggressive with American Anthem down from the inside, but then in hindsight and watching the tape back again, American Anthem just wasn't very good. And, this is a horse that's had his sort of starts and stops throughout his career. You don't know if he is quite what he once was now at this point. Maybe he's going to be that kind of horse that just needs everything to fall his way in order to really take advantage. The Whittingham, Marquis Water, kicks like an absolute mule, and I mean that in the most endearing way possible. He reminds me kind of, or he looks like a horse anyway, that on the turns, he just doesn't really seem to be able to quicken all that well. Because for a bit there, he was basically under the whip, 3/8, just inside the half. I mean, and he was just sort of spinning his wheels. Once he changed leads, leveled off on the stretch, on the straightaway rather, he came like an absolute house of fire. Giant effort from this horse. Marquis Water, I just think he's very likable. He's a really cool horse. And distance, I don't think is any sort of an issue for him. I thought United ran a really big race as well. Keep in mind, this is his first time really getting a bit of a class test, and he took a terrible stumble going across the dirt crossing for the first time. I think United could be a horse that could be on to bigger and better things as well. Salvatore Mile, spoiler alert, this is going to be my horse watch on Out of the Gate this week. Bal Harbour. Yeah, and oddly enough, I'm not talking about the first or second place finishers. Bal Harbour, I thought, ran just a massive race, given its Monmouth Park. The prevailing sort of wisdom is you want to be closer than coming from way out of it. And Bal Harbour absolutely walked out of the gate. And for him to actually be in with a chance at the quarter pole and understandably flatten out, I thought it was a massive, massive effort from this horse. He could be one that, depending on where he shows up next, he's one I think you want to keep an eye on. The Daytona, Eddie Haskell, he's just a 5'8 specialist on the grass. Certain horses, we talk about horse for course a lot, but there are certain horses that, boy, you just get them in a certain configuration, and that's when they take their game to the next level. Doesn't matter if it's Santa Anita, Del Mar. I'm sure you could do it. Churchill Downs, you can run him anywhere. 5/8 of a mile. Eddie Haskell takes his game to the next level. The Marine, thought it was a good effort from both Global Access and Skywire. I don't really have anything spectacular to add after that, but some promising 3-year-olds up there north of the border. Summertime Oaks, great horse race down the stretch. Don't have anything interesting to add from a handicapping standpoint, but it was a great stretch duel between those two fillies. The Nassau, I loved the effort from Secret Message, that she was able to go and get Starship Jubilee, who basically had, 3 lengths on Secret Message. And I think most people, if you take a look at just the chart, or you just take a look at PPs, you're going to say, oh, well, Starship Jubilee just got tired at the end. That was not the case at all. Starship Jubilee was going on. Secret Message went and got her. I've long thought Secret Message is a really talented filly. Looks like you could be on to bigger things here this year as a 4-year-old. I think she's really talented. And a good effort from the runner-up, Starship Jubilee. But I thought it was a big effort from Secret Message. Shoemaker Mile, probably the most polarizing result for me of the weekend. Not necessarily the most polarizing horse, most polarizing result, because I don't know what to do with it. I thought Bolo ran well. I mean, he went out there, the fractions were honest enough, and he still had something left in the tank. The thing that makes it so difficult for me to have any kind of real inkling about what to do with the race is none of the big horses ran. There was an instance where Sharp Samurai looked loaded, ready to go, and then when the real running started, he was completely nowhere. Delta Prince never picked his feet up. Catapult never really kicked it in. Bowie's Hero came with a big move on the outside, but he was the only one really doing any running. I don't know what to do with that Shoemaker Mile going forward. I think it's going to be one of those races, for me anyway, and if you agree or disagree, let me know beneath the video player on YouTube. I think it's going to, unfortunately, be one of those races that I'm going to want to see how horses exit that race before I go really making any sort of definitive statements one way or the other. Because if the race all of a sudden comes back really strong, then, you're going to have to upgrade some efforts. And if it comes back on the weaker side, obviously, you need to downgrade some. It sounds like Captain Obvious when I say that. But very difficult race for me to really make any kind of call on. The game lead, Vasilika just rolls on. She's just remarkable. Great claim. I believe Hollendorf after the race said, fair to say that she's the best claim he's ever made. She just keeps going on. I love that she's versatile. The distance clearly isn't an issue. And for a moment, it looked like you were going to be able to have the excuse with Rimska that, she's all bottled up and behind horses. And, maybe Vasilika was able to just get the big jump on her. Not the case, in my opinion. Rimska eventually did get that seam, probably just outside the 8th pole. Had every opportunity to go with Vasilika. She just couldn't quite kick with her. Vasilika is just on a different level right now. The Gold Cup, the most polarizing horse for me is Vino Rosso. I don't know what to do with him. He never looked like a loser to me in that race. I wasn't enamored with the finish from any of those horses, from he or Gift Box. I thought they both ran fine, but that final 1/8 of a mile just seemed very up and down. But Vino Rosso, I mean, credit to Todd Pletcher and everyone involved. This is a horse that, again, I've been wrong about basically whichever direction I go with him, you all should go the opposite, because when I was on him, he just never really seemed to put it together. Then when I was finally off, he started to run bigger races. So I don't know what to do with this horse going forward. It does make me wonder, though, overall about that sort of, let's call it the classic division for the Breeders' Cup. 10 furlongs probably is fine for Vino Rosso. Gift Box, it's okay for. I'm not sold about McKinsey at 10 furlongs. I think he's better going slightly shorter. I think McKinsey is the most talented of the lot, but I don't know that the distance is his friend. That opens the door, in my opinion, to some other fresher faces, some more interesting names, most notably a horse like Thundersnow, who you'll see in the mile next Saturday at a race that I think is going to be too sharp for him, but I think he's going to do bigger things going forward, going longer. I think the domestic hope, if you're not sold on what we've seen so far, I think it has to be Catholic Boy, for the older horses anyway, because I thought his Dixie effort was solid enough, a nice starting off point. and now getting back to the dirt, going longer, I think that's when he's going to do his best work. So again, that division's very muddy right now. I'm having a hard time deciphering who really is the goods and who is not, and X, Y, and Z. And the All-American, the last race we'll talk about up at Golden Gate Fields, Grecian Fire, a really strong effort from him when he got out into that clear turn for home. Went on with it, finished very, very well, opened up pretty significantly on the field. I thought he started to get a little bit short at the end of the race, and conversely, Builder, the runner-up, I thought he was just finally hitting his best stride at the end. So that mile, I think that's about Grecian Fire's bread and butter, and I think Builder, if you get an opportunity going a little bit longer with him, maybe he would appreciate that. But a good effort from the top two in the All-American up at Golden Gate on Memorial Day weekend. Now, let's transition. We're going to go into the 3 new shooter contender profiles for the Belmont Stakes. We'll kick things off with one of Todd Pletcher's horses. We'll go with Intrepid Heart. Belmont Stakes new shooter contender profile for Intrepid Heart, trained by Todd Pletcher. This is a 3-year-old son of Tappet. It's been well documented the success that Tappet has had as a sire in the Belmont Stakes. Just to name a few of the big names: Taproot, Creator, Tonalist, all sons of Tappet. They all went on to win the Belmont Stakes. You couple that with the dam Flaming Heart. She is the dam also of a horse called Commissioner, who ran a bang-up race in the Belmont Stakes just a few years back in behind Tonalist. So the Tappet connection here, 1.5 miles, a lot of things to like. This horse is lightly raced, only gone out 3 times. You can see paired up by her tops of 92. That's a pet angle of mine. I usually like to see that. I think it precedes a forward move. And the 92 here in the Peter Pan most recently that we're going to go back and take a look at, I think is even more impressive than maybe at face value, simply because keep an eye down on the inside. We're going to look at the start and then we'll pick it up later on in the run. But keep an eye on the number 1 horse. Going to stumble pretty badly coming out of the gate here. You're going to wait for it. Gates break. Stumbles pretty badly there. I mean, look, did he lose all chance there with that? No, I don't think so. But I do wonder where he would have been positioned in the run had he not stumbled. Would he have been a little bit closer to the front end? We'll move things forward along throughout the race. Rounding the far turn, you're going to end up seeing Intrepid Heart's going to try to make a move on the far outside. It's not going to work. He can't really go with those top horses. He's going to eventually finish 3rd in this spot. And this horse way back where is Sir Winston. He's actually going to rally and finish 2nd, and we'll talk about him in another contender profile for the Belmont Stakes. But this is an interesting case for Intrepid Heart. If you think that start really sort of messed with him a little bit, threw him behind the 8 ball, you think he's going to break more alertly next Saturday afternoon, you think he's going to be more forwardly placed, and again, from a pedigree standpoint, it's kind of difficult to argue that there's a horse with a better pedigree suited for this 12-furlong Belmont Stakes. And keep in mind the connections as well. Todd Pletcher's had tremendous success in this race over the past. This could be a very, very intriguing sort of fresh face. If you're not sold, then I'm going to basically sound like a broken record here going forward as we get closer and closer to the Belmont Stakes. If you're not sold on War of Will, and you're not sold on Tacitus, the 2 big names in this race, the 2 horses that are going to take the lion's share of the money, if you're not sold on either of them, it's pretty much a wide open race. And you can look at a horse like Intrepid Heart and say, lightly raced, still room for upside. Pedigree is there. Connections are there. John Velasquez has the mount. A lot to like if you're not sold on the 2 favorites in the upcoming Belmont Stakes. Intrepid Heart, one to keep an eye on for the big one going 12 furlongs. New shooter contender profile for the Belmont Stakes, Joevia. This is a horse trained by Gregory Sacco, 3-year-old colt by Shanghai Bobby out of a Warfront mare named Peace Process. To be honest, when I look at the pedigree, I don't think it screams 12 furlongs, but he's coming into this in good form. A winner of the Long Branch most recently down at Monmouth Park. That came at 1 1/16 over a sloppy sealed track, only against 3 competitors in there. But he hasn't done anything wrong throughout his career, Joevia. The interesting thing, he's probably most well known for his antics 2 starts back in the Wood Memorial, where he broke like a shot, but he ended up coming over, wiping out a number of horses, ultimately disqualified and placed 11th, rightfully so, after finishing 7th in that spot. He has the running style that would probably be beneficial for the Belmont Stakes. He can be forward, he can take the lead if it's given to him, or he can sit just off as he did in his career debut. Keep in mind, both of his wins to date have come at Monmouth Park and over sloppy sealed tracks. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind. If we do end up getting some wet weather for the Belmont Stakes, it's too far out to really make a definitive statement one way or the other. We're going to go back to the Long Branch. Now keep in mind, can't show as much of the replay as I'd like. There was an incident rounding the far turn. I'm not going to show that. We'll pick it up here as they're in deep stretch, and Joevia continues on with it. He goes on rounding the far turn. His ears were pricked. He was loving life. His ears are still up right now. It seems like he's still well within himself. And I do wonder if a horse would have come to challenge him a little bit more, maybe he would have finished even better than he did here. It's not that this was a terrible finish. It's not like he was just plodding home. But I do wonder if it was just a bit of, he's just better than those horses, and he was running against overmatched company. Having said that, you go to this Private Terms 3 starts back. He was humbled by Always Mining. Always Mining, a nice horse, don't get me wrong, but he was humbled himself in the Preakness just two and a half weeks back whenever you're watching this. I don't love this horse. I suppose, again, if you aren't sold on the big favorites in here, the Tacitus is the War of Wills, and you don't love any of the other fresh faces at a big price, maybe a horse like Joevia, who, again, has a running style that is conducive to success in the Belmont Stakes, maybe he's going to be your kind of horse. I look at the pedigree. I don't think it's there. From a number standpoint, I think he's a little bit on the light side, but look, it's the Belmont. Crazier things have happened. At least you know he's going to be relatively close throughout the early part of the running. The real question will start rounding that far turn when there's still more than a half mile to run. We'll find out. Joevia is going to be a big price in the Belmont, but hey, crazier things have happened. New shooter contender profile for the Belmont Stakes. Sir Winston, trained by Mark Casse. Mark Casse also trains War of Will, likely to be the favorite or the co-favorite for the Belmont Stakes next Saturday afternoon. You take a look at the pedigree here for Sir Winston. He is by Awesome again, out of an Affleet Alex mare named La Grande Bailadora. This is a mare, anyway. When she was out on the racetrack, she was a graded stakes winner on synthetic. She was a graded stakes placed runner on synthetic. She won a number of races going longer. The problem is, I shouldn't say the problem, but the unknown is actually how effective she would be on dirt, and you can basically say the same things about Sir Winston at this point to date. He is 2 for 3 on synthetic, never added the money in 3 starts on the synth, and he is 0 for 5 on dirt with only 1 runner-up finish on the dirt surface. That runner-up finish came in the Peter Pan most recently. We are going to go back to that race right now. He is way, way back here out in the clouds, and the fractions were honest enough. 3/4, 10 flat flashed up. You're going to see Sir Winston flash home with a giant, giant finish here, wheel out into the clear, come on and finish a strong second. Now, if you have listened to any of my podcasts recently, specifically the one a couple weeks back anyway, showing the charts for the Belmont Stakes, this is not a running style that is typically conducive to winning a race like the Belmont unless there's an absolute pace meltdown. You take a look, he does his best running from much farther out of it. The only times he's been remotely close to the pace is when it's an absolute crawl out there. In his maiden score, 51-4 for a half. In the display, when he was a length and a half off of it, they went 49-4. I suppose it's within the realm of possibility that they're going 48 for a half. I'd just be surprised if it was closer to 50. I think he's going to have too much to do, and to me, this is a running style that is not particularly well suited to win the Belmont Stakes, just because they finish as visually impressive as that was. And don't take anything away from the horse. I think there's some ability here. I don't know that the Belmont Stakes is when he's going to do his best running. I think this could be a horse that maybe that late kick is better going slightly shorter distances. I also hate that he is just completely void of early speed. It's been well documented. Horses that have success in the Belmont typically are forwardly placed, sort of grindy, galloping kind of types, as opposed to those big flashy moves from the back of the pack. It's not impossible. A horse like Creator won from well off the pace, but it's very difficult to sustain that bid. That came in a 1-turn mile and an eighth. He's got to go a 2-turn mile and a half. If you're going to have that kind of running style, he's going to have to be much the best next Saturday. Sir Winston, I think he's talented. Not sure if the Belmont Stakes is when he's going to do his best. There you go, a little bit of a review and recap where we can go and button up some things from Memorial Day weekend, and a little bit of a preview of some horses that are scheduled to run in the Belmont Stakes next Saturday afternoon with those 3 new shooter contender profiles. Those will also be broken down individually on YouTube as well as video.drf.com. Speaking of both of those, a number of spots for you to listen to the podcasts. For the most part, I come out with 2 a week. Recap as well as a preview The recap comes out on Monday. The preview comes out on Thursday. You can find those on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com, as well as Spotify. Please rate, review, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. Questions, comments, or concerns to me over there or beneath the video player on YouTube. I already kind of tipped the hand at the top of the show what's to come next week. There will be a review on Monday, and we will come back on Thursday with a preview of the Belmont Stakes 2019. We'll find out. Maybe there'll be some wild card late sort of adds to the field, but it looks like right now it's going to be a relatively modest field, and 2 horses are going to be rather heavy favorites in War of Will and Tacitus. We'll find out if anything else changes between now and then. As far as your racing action this upcoming weekend goes, best of luck however you play, whatever you play, and wherever you play. This has been a recap and a preview edition of the Matt Bernier Show.